Yo, what's up, Giancarlo? Fancast Live Podcast. So last night, during Puerto Rico's victory celebration and a win against the Dominican Republic, Mets closer Edwin Diaz went down with an apparent right leg injury during the celebration, not even during the course of the game. We don't know what the severity of the injury is, but the scene on the field was an emotional one where players from Puerto Rico were seen crying. His brother was crying. He was picked up off the field, couldn't put any weight on his right leg, and was wheeled off the field on a wheelchair. I believe X-rays were taken at the stadium where they were playing, and that didn't show any kind of results of what the severity of the damage was. So an MRI is being done today to see if there's any structural damage to the knee. If there is, there's a good chance that Edwin Diaz is going to lose a significant amount of time, if not miss out on the entire season altogether. This is the fucking reason why I don't like the WBC. This is why I am totally opposed to the WBC taking place prior or during the course of the season. Teams are way too invested in these players. Edwin Diaz just signed a 5-year deal, over $100 million. He's making $20+ million a season, and he might be sitting out. Pete Alonso is another player the Mets have participating in the WBC. He's making 14.5. Francisco Lindor is making $30+ million. Jeff McNeil just signed a 5-year, $10 million per. So the Mets, I think, have the most players participating in the WBC, and they have the most to lose. And there's a good chance that they've already lost Edwin Diaz. The WBC should take place after the World Series, because the fear prior to the season is that players are not in midseason form. Some have even said, well, let's do it in the middle of the season, when players are in midseason form. But the fact of the matter is there's still risk that players get hurt even during the halfway point of the season, where they can miss significant amount of time during the baseball season. After the World Series, players who get hurt, they have a recovery window from the time they get hurt in, say, November to the opening of spring training in February, where they won't miss playing time, depending on the severity of the injury, obviously. But players are making way too much money for teams to allow players to participate in the WBC. Now, teams do have the power to keep players from participating in the WBC. Now, Steve Cohen allowed his players to participate because obviously, they're participating in an event where they're representing their countries. And there's a lot of pride in that, and I get that. But the fact of the matter is Steve Cohen is paying a lot of money to these players, and there's a lot of risk in these players participating prior to the start of a season. That's where I have beef with the WBC. Mets fans are holding their breaths, because if Edwin Diaz is going to miss a significant amount of time or even the entire season, the Mets are going to have a hole at the back end of this bullpen. They can go, they have other options for closers in Adam Ottavino, Dave Robertson, Drew Smith, Brooks Raley. They can go with a committee, but the fact of the matter is they won't have Edwin Diaz, who Buck Showalter used in multiple situations last year, to where he brought him in even in the 7th and 8th innings to shut down opposing batting, the heart of opposing batting orders. So hold your breaths, Mets fans, and wait for the news. Hopefully it's not as bad as it looked. Let's go Mets. Peace.